We want to have it available. All right, everybody. Good morning again to everybody joining us from all across the country. Today is another opportunity to look at some of our investors in our real estate investing ecosystem. You're going to have the opportunity to ask questions, learn, and see more about how our ecosystems work. All right. With that being said, we're going to welcome in the featured speaker for today. I'm going to stop my share. So today we've got a special privilege to hang out with Becky Lambert. We're so excited to hear from you. And Becky is gonna, Becky, you want to just go ahead and start and tell us a little bit of background about you and what got you plugged into our community, our ecosystem, some background on just who you are and what brought you to being a real estate investor today. Oh, Becky, you're muted. Let's get
Sorry,
you.
I muted myself so I wouldn't accidentally make noise while you were talking. Sorry about that. Hey, everybody. My name is Becky Lambert. I actually live in Utah with my husband, Nate. I actually started in real estate 20 years ago. Can you believe it? This is not my first experience in real estate. I started 20 years ago. When I first graduated from college, I had a bunch of scholarships to college, but I had been saving for college since I was a young child. I grew up in a very rural community, a farming community. My parents didn't have.
Oh no. Let's see. We can't hear her.
I just.
There you go.
I don't know why it just remuted me big. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay. So either way, sorry. I grew up in a farming community. My family didn't have very much money, and I always knew I wanted to go to college. And so I had been saving money to go to college, and I ended up getting a bunch of academic scholarships. So when I graduated college, I had about $40,000 sitting in a checking account, and I was barely 19 years old. So one of my friends, his name was Chris at the time, he's like, hey, you could buy a rental property. And so we started chatting through with it, what it was, looked around, found a rental property here in Salt Lake City that I thought would be a great opportunity because it had 6 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. And in 2004, when I bought it, it was $150,000. So my mortgage was like $870 a month. And I knew I could rent every bedroom for $300 a month. So I could live there for free and have all my friends pay rent. So that's how I got into real estate, was really kind of the house hacking model. Just thought it'd be fun to be able to pick my own roommates and have them pay my mortgage. Thank you very much. That's very nice. That was 20 years ago. I learned a lot along the way. I learned a lot along the way of what you should do and what you should not do. Stuff I learned the hard way of, that was an expensive oops. Because I didn't know at the time there's actually groups out there that you can get education from, kind of like this podcast. I just kind of guessed how to do it along the way. But I discovered I loved real estate. I loved real estate. I loved being a landlord. I loved buying houses. It was something I was just naturally good at. So I picked up a few more houses. I lived in that one for a few years, bought another one, rented the first one out. That second house, I put roommates in, did the same thing again while I was single. Later on, I got married, did the same thing a few more times, and just picked up a portfolio of real estate over 20 years that way, making mistakes along the way that I'm just really, truly, I'm super lucky I didn't lose my shorts in the course of it. The market was such that I bought my first house right before the last recession. So I have been through a recession. I actually had 2 houses when the Great Recession hit. And I was really well situated because all of them had enough bedrooms that I could rent them by the bedroom and still make pretty good money. I didn't lose anything during the last recession. Kept them rented out, continued to build my portfolio over around 20 years. And then
if you don't mind me slowing you down just a little bit, Becky, because it's like so many cool things that you're talking about. Over your 20 years, what were some challenges or some obstacles that you faced? And I know you've overcome because you just seem so powerful, but what are some things that, because what I heard was you got your degree, right? And you paid for your college, you saved up for your own college. And what was your professional background while you were doing real estate investing as a side gig? Or did you just jump into it like full-fledged? I'm doing
No, I didn't jump into it full-fledged. So I graduated in economics for an undergrad.
Okay.
And started working in banking. And then I got a master's degree in econometrics, which is basically statistics and calculus and economics rolled together in one nerdy person. Continued working in banking. I absolutely loved it. And I was working as a commercial loan officer. So I specialized in commercial loans between 1 million and 30 million. And I did primarily real estate, but real estate meaning multifamily, office, retail, warehouse, industrial, airport hangars, the whole gamut. I actually financed a bunch of aircrafts as well while I was at it. I did some equipment lending, but mostly I just loved real estate. And I had quite a successful career in banking. I was with the same company for 12 years. By the time I left the bank, I was managing a team of 12 commercial lenders, and our portfolio between the 12 of us was well over probably about 890 million in our portfolio.
Almost a
I mean,
billion. It was big.
Really fun. I loved what I did. And then I had worked in banking for so long that I was learning a lot about real estate as well. Mm-hmm. And what I learned quickly was all of my most successful clients, regardless of whether they started in real estate or started in business, they all ended in real estate. So I'm like, well, why not just skip the business part and go straight to real estate? That's where all of my most successful clients are going. And I was watching as people around me were flipping houses, and I hadn't really ever flipped a house. I knew how to do it, but the problem was I just fell in love with every house and the cash flow I could get from renting them. So I was picking up houses along the way and just adding them to my portfolio. So much so that my good friend at the bank, his name is Brady. He's actually the chief lending officer of the whole bank right now. He would joke with people that I buy houses the way most girls buy handbags. Because I'd come into the office and say, hey, Brady, I bought a house last night. It was a really good deal. You should have seen what they normally sell for. Do you know what the retail price of this is? And he would laugh and say, my wife says the same thing when she comes home with a new handbag or a new fancy dress or pair of pants or something. He's like, she's not buying assets that generate income. And we just kind of laughed about it.
Wow.
So yeah,
now I know.
Real estate's always been my passion.
Now I know why your husband Nate married you, right? That's hilarious. Could you talk? Okay, so you got your background in banking, paid yourself through college, just fell in love with real estate and finance. It's amazing. And so what led you here to our group, our ecosystem? Tell us a little bit about your family, what are you passionate about other than I mean, we know you love real estate, but a little just background on yourself and what led you here to our community.
Absolutely. So I had 3 kids at the time. And then in 2020, I ended up going through a divorce. Okay. And it was really hard. And that's really hard. Sometimes it's the best outcome, but I don't recommend it most of the time. It's pretty painful. Okay. But in our situation, it needed to happen. So my 3 kids and I became a single mom. I continued to invest in real estate. My ex-husband wasn't really involved in that at all. Wow. And then I bought a 4-plex property while I was single, just a few months after the divorce was finalized. I'm going to actually tell you about that one later on today, because that's one of my favorite properties I've ever bought.
Okay.
And I moved into it to house hack it because my kids were young enough that they weren't too bugged by it. And it was in the same school district where they had been attending school learning. My kids are dual immersion Mandarin Chinese school. And so while I was living there, my intent was always to live there for 1 year and 1 day, just barely enough to meet the requirement of owner occupied, because having worked at the bank, I got really amazing interest rates. And as owner occupied, you have a lower down payment and a better interest rate. So I picked up the whole property at a 2.875% fixed interest rate for 30 years. So it cash flows really, really well.
I bet it does. Goodness gracious. Okay.
And while I was single, I met Nate Lambert. He's also a real estate investor who's involved in this community. And as I got to know him, that's how I got to know this community. I was shocked how after almost 20 years as a real estate investor, he had learned more than I had ever learned. And he'd only been doing it for about 7 years.
Wow.
I was shocked by how much I didn't know that I should have known, that really could have been an expensive oops that I'm just lucky didn't come to fruition in a bad way. Sorry, there's a fly around here. So that's how I actually connected into this group. And I started learning about all the education opportunities are out there and all the things that can teach you how to not make the same mistakes that most investors make, and can teach you what you need to know to evaluate stuff accurately. And so meeting Nate is actually how I met this community.
Yeah.
And long story short, I ended up marrying Nate. We now are both real estate investors. It is so fun to share that passion with my husband, guys. Oh, it is one of my favorite things in the whole world because I've been a solo investor for 20 years.
Yeah.
Now I'm partnering up with my husband. We have this whole team of people all over the country that we discuss our deals with, vet them through as an idea, like get ideas together. Hey, what about this? Have you ever tried that? When you're looking at the title report, did you look for this? That might be a concern of something you should look at. And I love it. Nate and I together have 8 children.
Okay.
Um, People are like, oh, that's the Brady Bunch. I'm like, no, the Brady Bunch only had 6. We are larger than the Brady Bunch. When we travel, it literally is like traveling with a small village. To
We
try
got to
to
come up with a cool
airline
name for you
tickets for
guys.
10 people
Yeah.
is insane. You have to book them in 2 different groups, guys. The online, like when you jump online to buy airline tickets through the airline companies, they don't expect a single family to be more than 8 people. So we have to book them in 2 different groups and hope that one flight doesn't book out before we get on and get them all booked. It's crazy, but I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. Our 8 kids are amazing, and we have them pretty much 100% of the time.
Wow. And one of the reasons you guys just kind of meshed so well together is you both love to travel the world, right?
Yes,
And
we
your
do.
real estate pays for your world travel. So it's just things, God works in mysterious ways. I'm just so happy for you guys. It's amazing to hear.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, Nate and I have been working on a variety of things. One of the 2 things that we're really, really passionate about is living a balanced life. Real estate is amazing. I love it. But what's most amazing about real estate is it gives you the time freedom to live the life of your choice.
Mm.
Before, when I was working at the bank, I quit the bank when I married Nate because I knew that there's no way I could continue to manage a team of people at the bank putting in 40, 50 hours a week. Usually it was more like 50 or 60, and raise 8 children and manage our real estate portfolio because I had a big enough real estate portfolio that it was getting really hard for me to manage. So to
Wow.
add Nate's to it, and I had tried property management companies, but I hadn't found a very good one.
Okay.
We have finally found one that we absolutely love that does a good job because I'm pretty adamant that I don't want to be a slumlord. I want to provide houses that are in good condition, that are well maintained, and quality tenants in those properties so that the neighbors don't hate us and that they appreciate the value we are adding to the community. All the cities and all of the houses that I've ever bought rave about me because I take care of the houses and I background check and credit check the tenants. I make sure I'm providing a good atmosphere.
Wow. Amazing. Man, this is just I feel like I could just listen to you. You're such a wealth of knowledge for hours. But guys, let's dive into the featured property today, if you don't mind, Becky. So you could, and I think you had slides prepared for us, right? Or
I do have some. I'm just going to see if it will let me screen share
okay,
it.
you should be able to screen
It's
share.
allowed. Let's
Let's
see if it
see.
will allow.
And if you have any issue, let me know.
I'm just turning on some lights there. Okay.
Okay. Okay. And so as we're waiting, guys, as she's pulling up her screen, I want to put a plug in here right after this deal tour. You guys can hang out with me for about an hour to 90 minutes as I go through how our real estate investing ecosystems all across the country work and how you can plug in and play. Regardless of where you're getting started at, we've got plans for people and we can show you some duplicatable success. Becky, how you doing over there with the screen
It's
share?
not letting me screen share. Do you know if you received the document I sent called House Hacks? If not, I
Let's
can share it with you.
yeah, maybe I'm gonna check, but let
Because when I
me.
try to screen share it, it's telling me I need to change the system preferences and it's
Oh,
not
okay, that's
allowing me
gonna take
to
too long.
share it.
So let's see.
Yeah.
Do you know where you sent it to? Let me check it out. I'll look for it on
I,
Google.
I think maybe you
Real
can make
estate
her
cash
a
one.
presenter.
Yeah, make her a
Make her a presenter, and then she'll have a pop-up that says accept, and then she can
All right,
take
let's try
over.
that out. Thank you,
Let's
guys.
do that. And if
Sure.
not, I know I just noticed it is actually shared with your real estate one
Okay.
email as
Well,
well.
I've made you co-host, and it doesn't give me the opportunity to make you a presenter. So let me go to my real estate email, and I'm gonna pull it up.
Okay.
So
Sorry
It's
for the
not a
delays,
big
guys,
deal.
but these pictures are worth it. If you see the pictures, you'll kind of understand what I'm doing. Otherwise, people listen to it and they think, oh, that doesn't sound duplicated. Well, where are you going to find a deal like that? But when you see the before and after pictures of this project, you start to realize, oh, just kidding. That's duplicatable. I can see why the value changed so much with what I did.
Becky, I
It's the one.
found it. So I'm gonna hit slideshow, and
Okay.
you guys can see this, yeah? Okay, put a Y in the
I
chat
can
box.
see
You
it.
can see it. All right.
Mhm. So if
Cool.
you can, since I'm not navigating, can you scroll down to page 13?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh,
these are just some various properties I have fixed and rented out. You don't have to go through all of them because we don't have time to highlight all of them. I only put actually 3 on here. But if
we'd
you
love
scroll
to if
down,
we got some time, or maybe we could work backwards. Let's go through the one that you want to talk about now, and then we could work a little bit backwards. So,
let's see how much, we have enough time. Let's start at the beginning because it actually kind of
yeah,
shows a progression story.
yeah,
I've used
awesome.
this to teach a variety of people, like kind of what we do and why we do it, the way we
Let's
do it.
do it.
I'm just going to leave you in charge of switching slides as we go through.
I
So
got you.
first of all, I just tell everybody that I'm involved in real estate. Even when I was a full-time real estate or full-time lender at the bank, people would ask, what do you do? I say, I'm a banker who loves real estate and who does real estate. And what that does is it opens up your network of opportunities. Over time, I'd get lots of calls from people who would say, oh, my neighbor down the road, they're losing their house to foreclosure, and I thought of you. My grandma just passed away. We have this house. I don't really want to take the time to fix it up and work with it. Can you do something with it? That gives you a chance to find great deals. This is the very, very first house I ever bought. I bought it when I just barely graduated from college and I was 19 years old with my bachelor's degree. You can't tell it, but that house actually has 6 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. It's an up and down house. There's 3 bedrooms up and 3 bedrooms down. There's 2 kitchens, 2 living rooms. It doesn't look huge on the outside, but it actually has a lot. They hadn't put it on the MLS. The person who owned it just stuck a sign in the front yard. It's a street that you only go down if you live on it. It doesn't really connect to anything, any destination. So I picked up this one for $155,000. There's just a few of the minor pictures afterward. If you can scroll to the end. So purchase was $155,000. I put $68,000 worth of remodel into it over about 2 years. I just did the slow method because I didn't know what I was doing. So my total cost was just shy of $180,000. On this house, I swung the hammers and installed sheetrock and mud and tape and paint. I did it all myself.
You are
I hired a
superwoman.
plumber for some minor stuff, but I had never learned how to do it. I learned from the YouTube University how to remodel houses. So that's why it took me a while. But I had roommates living in it with me and they were totally cool with it. So it paid the mortgage. It was good. It appraised for $300,000. So I refinanced it at $245,000, took $90,000 out of the house. So I, at this point, have no money involved in the property, guys. $0 in on this project. But I have now $90,000 to move into my next house hack or my next property. This is one of the cool things about real estate is you can put money in on your first house, but if you do it right, you don't always have to put in money. You pull money out of the first one and just keep rolling it, escalating it. Let's go on to the second one.
And I just want to talk a little
more.
bit about this, Becky, is when you
Yeah.
pull that cash out, and you know, the one of the most demanding benefits is that cash is not taxed, right? Because the government
Right.
doesn't, right? So
It's
it's
not
not
counted as
taxed.
income.
Exactly.
Actually, give me 10 seconds. I'm gonna turn a light. It's getting kind of dark here.
Yeah. So when you pull out cash after you refinance and they drop that money in your bank account, it's not taxed at capital gains tax,
Nope.
right? Because this is what they mean when you hear people get wealthy leveraging debt. I love it, Becky. All right, let's move on to the next one.
Exactly. It's considered a loan. I have to pay it back. But in the meantime, I'm going to make a lot of money on that loan and pay it back with the mortgage on there. So, and then I wanted to highlight after that, yeah, I took cash out on that property, but people think, oh, well, I bet your property doesn't cash flow. Well, I'm making $3,265 a month in rents on that property as of right now. And it was cash flowing back then, but I don't have the details to remember what it was in 2008.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pulling from my memory pretty far back.
Yeah.
But I refinanced after the refinance, the mortgage and the expenses. My total cost on it is about $1,985 a month. So my cash flow on this property is $1,284 a month. This is why cash flow is so important, guys. I hear so many real estate investors in conferences I go to and networking groups. People are like, I have $10 million in assets under management. What's your AUM? Guys, your AUM means nothing. I've watched people with 100 million in assets under management that lose their shorts. They lose everything. It's not about your assets under management. It's about your cash flow. Cash flow is what pays your bills.
Exactly.
Cash flow is what keeps you in real estate investing when a recession hits. Cash flow is key. So my after mortgage cash flow on this property, even though I took $90,000 out of it, is $1,284 a month or $15,000 a year, which people might think, oh, that's not much, but 15 grand a year on a single family home is pretty good.
Especially if you multiply it. And so what Becky's showing you guys here is a way that we can get wealthy and create cash flow leveraging real estate. So after all of her expenses, she's still making money on this thing, which is, I would say, about 90% passive when done correctly.
Oh, it's really passive. And here's the best part. That mortgage, my remaining balance on that mortgage is about $26,000. I'm likely going to have that mortgage paid off within 6 months. And my cash flow on that property goes up to $3,265 a month. Well, actually, when you take out expenses, probably about $2,800 a month.
Yeah, this is why we love real estate, right? It's like
real estate.
People don't see it until they really get it. And you're really helping all of our listeners really understand this stuff. So anything else on the slide? You want me to move down?
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on. But
okay.
Yeah, the cash flow is king, and the recurring cash flow, that goes into perpetuity. So the one thing I love about the recurring cash flow of real estate is I don't have to sit at a desk to make this money. I'm not putting in 40 hours a week to make this money. Nate and I can travel the world and we make the same amount of money on our rental properties, whether we're here in Utah sitting at a desk all day, or we're traveling Morocco and Indonesia or Tahiti. The money comes into our checking account. I have a lot of my tenants pay by Venmo, and I love walking around on the first day of the month. Cha-ching, cha-ching. I'm like, it must be the first day of the month, as my Venmo balance just grows exponentially. It's awesome. I do have a property management company, but I have a few tenants that I manage myself just because I'm over the years have become close friends with them. One of them's a contractor. He literally takes care of everything. He just sends me a text and says, I saw the rain gutters were broken. I replaced them. I hope you don't mind. Nope. No, I don't mind.
Yeah. The first and the 15th are my favorite times of the month, because that's when we collect our rent checks. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's awesome. This is another house I did that I actually took that 90,000 from the first house, rolled it into this particular house. The purchase price was 250,000. I wish I had a before picture. I have searched everywhere. I bought this house in like 2009, 2010, and I just can't find a picture, but it was really ugly on the outside. However, on the inside, it was almost fully remodeled. It had vaulted ceilings. It had really nice flooring. It was in really good shape, but most people never took the time to figure that out because they saw the outside and thought, ugh. It had some like wood siding that was starting to fall apart a little bit, that was peeling away. But it sat on a half-acre lot, which in this area is pretty unheard of in a pretty big city area. Half-acre lot is a really big lot. Most of the houses in the area are 0.2. Yeah, you can go ahead and move on. This is the pictures of it after the remodel. And actually, in full disclosure, this house, I picked it up for $250. It should have sold for probably $325, $350, maybe even $375. Okay. The realtor who posted pictures only posted pictures of the outside of the house, didn't take any pictures of the inside, which were actually quite nice. And this house is a mother-in-law. It has a mother-in-law unit attached to it. The realtor never listed that online. They just said single family house. When I toured through the house and realized there was a mother-in-law unit, which isn't like a studio, it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom mother-in-law unit. It's a legit unit.
Wow. Yeah.
So remodeled it on the outside and did a little bit of work on the inside. Remodeled the downstairs unit, made it look a lot nicer. I think the next picture you'll see that. But yeah, a half-acre lot. That's the downstairs kitchen. This house I now have rented. So the upstairs is 3-bed, 2-bath. The downstairs is 3-bed, 1-bath. My combined rents is just shy of $3,800 on this particular house. I have granite countertops, stainless steel appliances in almost all of my properties because I'm really trying to find the cream of the crop tenants who will pay their rent on time every month with no hassle. So here's the actual numbers, the cash out payday, if you will. Bought it for $250, put $68,000 of remodel into it. It appraised for $525, and I got a new mortgage at $420,000. So this property gave me another $102,000 in cash out to put to another property of my choice, which again, like Umar said, tax-free, guys, tax-free. Now, I'm not saying take it out and go travel the world with that money because you want to roll it into another property, but that's tax-free income. The performance on this property, you can see that the expenses and the mortgage and like management expenses, things like that, just shy of $1,840 a month. My net cash flow on that is $1,800 a month. So 20 per year, I get 21, almost $22,000 a year from just that house. So you're seeing how this is growing and expanding in just 2 properties, just these 2 properties. I think the first one was a little over $15,000 a year. So I'm getting about $40,000 a year from just 2 properties. So take that and triple it, quadruple it. Do you see how this is a scalable model? And it is truly not that hard to do if you get the education you need to be able to do it right.
Absolutely.
This one was not the 3rd property I bought. I bought a variety of them in the middle. I'm only highlighting 3, but this is the one I really wanted to show. And this, sorry, that fly started me crazy. This particular property is a 4-plex. It's located about 2 miles from the mouth of a canyon here in Salt Lake that has some of your best skiing in the entire state. It's at the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon. For those of you who know, Big Cottonwood Canyon houses Alta Ski Resort, I believe. My husband Nate could chime in and tell you. I'm not as big of a skier. We are skiing at all the different resorts, but it has Brighton, Alta. There's just tons and tons of skiing at that ski resort, and it's really close to Little Cottonwood, which has the other 3 or 4 that I'm thinking of. So you've got probably 6 ski resorts within about a 40-minute drive.
Yeah, Nate got me to do some indoor skiing or snowboarding in Dubai when we went on our trip. And I nearly killed myself, but he loves skiing and he's a really good instructor too. He taught me some things.
He's really into skiing, which we love.
Thanks, man. That was fun. That was fun.
Oh, there you go, buddy. What's up, man?
That's my husband, Nate. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of ski resorts really, really close to this particular property. It's a 4-plex, and even better is across the street and 1 property to the east is the bus stop that goes directly to those ski resorts. There's only 2 more stops on that bus route before it goes straight up the canyon to the ski resorts. That's ideal for skiers, for renting. So I picked up this 4-plex for $1,220,000. Again, the realtor didn't show any pictures of the inside when she listed it. She just showed these pictures of the outside. And as you can see, they are ugly. There's another one on the next page. You can see all 4 of, I bought the green and the red properties. You can see they're dated. There's just weeds everywhere. And the driveway, that was the main reason people did not want to buy this house. This is a high snowfall area. That slope, your car just slides down it. So all of these little pillars, you can't see them, but see the little pillars holding up the kind of like driveway part?
Yeah.
All of those little pillars, you could see signs of cars crashing into them as they attempted to carefully navigate into the driveway in the winter.
Goodness.
Just a death trap, a terrible idea because of the sloping driveway. So the house was actually listed on the MLS. I drove past it for about a month before I thought, I should jump in and look at that house and put an offer in it. I was coping with the divorce and I was...
Hey, guys, we're not seeing the pictures right now. For some reason, they're not showing. Oh,
you didn't see the pictures?
Did you? Can you guys see the pictures?
Yeah, Nate?
We're just seeing all the people.
Yeah, we can see it. I can see
the pictures. We can see him. You're probably on your... Yeah, we can see.
Okay, my bad.
Okay, as long as the rest of you can see it. Because I think the pictures tell the story in this particular situation. So anyway, I looked at the house, decided to put in an offer, decided I really, really liked it. had a lot of potential, but the driveway was scaring off almost everybody. Everyone else I talked to was like, yeah, I looked at that house, but I thought, oh, that driveway is a disaster. I could never touch that. So I picked up all 4 of them for $1,220,000. Single family homes in the area were selling for like $580,000 at that time. So to pick up 4 properties for $1,200,000 was a really good deal. Yeah. Just because the driveway was so awful. So we put a flat driveway in, took out that giant slope and converted it into just a flat driveway with stairs going into the units. So instead of having 2 parking stalls per unit, they now have 4 per unit. Okay. And it actually has usable space because you couldn't access those parking garage spaces very well, because not only does it slope down terribly, but then it levels out, and almost every car I ever drove that in, no matter how slowly you drive it, at the bottom of your car as you leveled out into the driveway. So just terrible layout altogether. It now has a flat driveway with stairs going in. The whole front of the houses were remodeled, and then I remodeled the kitchens. And that cost us a total of $328,500, which a lot of people think, oh, that's a lot of money, which it is a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but it was totally worth it. Can you move to the next one? Oh, and I put new windows. So our total purchase is $1,220,000. The remodel was $328,500. So our total cost is $1,548,000, which is a lot of money, guys. But did you see the combined value of the unit?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. My jaw dropped. But
$3 million. If Nate and I were to choose to sell it after closing costs, we'd net about $700,000, potentially more. That's kind of on the low end scale, just looking at comparable houses in the area that are selling.
Conservatively, yeah.
Conservatively. However, in this case, we chose to not sell it because we could flip it, make a profit. That's a really good profit. But the challenge is then we have to pay taxes on that or do a 1031
Can
exchange.
we see the after pictures, please?
The before or the after?
The after are coming. They're coming.
The after. Go ahead and skip to the next one. You can show the after.
Oh, Becky, you got muted. Unmute yourself real quick.
I don't know why that keeps happening. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and show them the after pictures. This is the after picture. You see the driveway. The next one will show you the actual driveway itself. But you see, we took what was once a completely unusable garage. You could almost never get your car in. And when you did, it scratched bottom anyway. Converted it to 2 additional bedrooms. So now instead of being 2-bed, 2-bath units, they are 4-bed, 2-bath units. So that's what you see on the front of the houses in the picture there, is that was once a driveway that was not usable. That's now 2 additional bedrooms. Took the upstairs bathroom, and instead of it just having like a toilet and a sink, it now has a full shower.
Wow.
A really nice built-in shower so that they're much more usable. That's the flat parking we were talking about. So we no longer have the slope that goes down, and every unit has 4 parking spaces instead of 2, which makes it a lot more rentable and a lot more usable for people who want to go skiing or people who want to, move their whole family in.
I have a question, please.
Hey guys,
Yes.
the questions typically get put into the chat boxes just because it helps us to facilitate the questions. So if you have questions, put them in the chat box and we will answer them. We're going to go through them at the very end. So please, again, type those questions into the chat boxes. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I would be happy to answer questions in just a moment. So as you can see, we did a lot of work on the properties. The next slide, I believe, will give you the numbers of where it's cash flowing. This is why we chose to not get rid of this property. I could make $700,000 in the flip, or we can hang on to it and have a good long-term recurring cash flow. The monthly rents, as of right now, the house is fully rented out. So this is not just speculative. The reason I'm not there at the house to give you a tour is because it's fully rented.
Yeah.
So I don't have a unit I can show you without disrupting my tenants there. The rents are $10,125 per month. The mortgage, because I got it for such a good interest rate, is $49.70 a month. I could refinance and take a bunch of cash out, but I feel like I'm at such an amazing interest rate. I'd rather just leave it there.
Yeah.
Especially because Nate and I don't necessarily need the money. We're getting, as you can see, $61,860 a year in cash flow from this property, or just over $5,000 a month on this fourplex property as well.
So, real quick, Becky, the question was, did you turn the garage into another house? They didn't understand. So
Good question. Can
yeah,
you go back to the before pictures? That will make it help you
let's
make it
do
a little
that.
more sense.
So,
Probably the other group before one that has all four. So you pull into this driveway. I'm kind of describing because I can't point to it. You pull into the driveway. There's a garage right here that walks into the house that's behind it. And that house has a kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and 2 bathrooms. 1 bathroom upstairs, 1 bathroom downstairs. And then the 2 bedrooms were downstairs. So we converted the garage, the little box looking part in the front, into 2 additional bedrooms. So you walk in, there's a hallway. There's now 2 bedrooms. They walk into the kitchen area. There's a bathroom on the right and a living room, which, by the way, these living rooms have a great view of the whole valley because it's just elevated enough right by the mouth of the canyon that you can see through the window of the kitchen and through the window of the living room. The whole valley is lit up at night. Then you go downstairs and there's 2 more bedrooms and a bathroom there. So each of the 4 units now have 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, where they before only had 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Does that make more sense?
And so you just moved some things around. You didn't add like an addition or anything, right?
I didn't actually add an addition. I just that part on the picture where you can see the driveway, the what looks like kind of a garage with the garage doors up. That became a hallway on one side that leads into 2 bedrooms, 1 here, 1 there. If you continue down the hallway, it enters into the kitchen.
Yeah. So here's another good question. How much was the price to convert 1 garage to bedroom, please? I know it was a total of $350,000, but I don't know if you have that total breakdown.
I actually do have that breakout. Just give me a second, I will pull it up.
Awesome.
I am really into accounting, and so I have documented details of everything I've done on all of these houses, how much was spent.
And as she's finding that, guys, a quick reminder, if you want to learn more about how our real estate investing ecosystems work, right after this training, I'm going to be doing a presentation on how investors like you and me all across the nation are working together, learning together, and providing value to each other on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So if you guys want to tune into that, you're going to get the Zoom link from the person who invited you to today's property tour. And that starts right at noon. So here's another question. Did you FHA all homes? For those of you, okay.
No. I FHA'd what I could do, but I picked up, I'm showing you 3 properties. I actually have quite a portfolio outside of that. So I did FHA on a duplex that I picked up in 2020, an owner-occupied duplex. And then I did FHA on this fourplex, but you're limited on how many FHAs you're allowed to do. And so I had to time that in the midst of all my other properties as well.
Now, Becky, what are some things that by partnering with Nate that you were able to acquire as far as a skill set or a knowledge set? And what are some ways that you've been able to expand working with our group and teams across the nation? Are there any things that have really benefited your life when it comes to learning and understanding and expanding your current portfolio and just ways of doing things enhanced from what you were doing 20 years past?
Well, 20 years past, even just 2 years ago before I married Nate, a lot of things have changed. 20 years ago, I'd buy a house and I'd swing the hammer and do it all myself because I didn't really know anything different. Okay. And contractors seemed too expensive. I didn't really understand opportunity costs and the scalable nature of real estate. I bought 1 house and thought, wow, that was a really awesome fluke that I made money on that. I didn't really understand initially that, hey, this is scalable and you can scale it relatively quickly. Over time, as I started doing it more often, I realized, no, this is very scalable and it's not that out of range. And so I started hiring contractors for a lot more of the work, nearly all of it. By the time I picked up, I think by the time I got my 3rd house, I was very rarely doing much of the work myself because it just made a lot more sense to pay somebody else to do it. And I could make a lot more money at the bank or on my real estate portfolio that I was working at. Yeah. When I married Nate and I found this community, what I discovered is not only do I love real estate, but I love teaching real estate. I love watching other people become successful in it. So Nate and I are in the final stages of revamping our podcast, getting it out teaching people how to use real estate to get to a freedom point. We call it Real Estate to Freedom. That's actually our website and our company. Teaching people how to use real estate to get to a point where you have the freedom you want. Time freedom being what we think is one of your most important. Because I was working 50 hours a week at the bank. I loved what I was doing, but the time that I had available to our children was not near as much as they needed or near as much as I wanted. And just that juggling back and forth of not really having the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to take more time to be with my family. By quitting the bank and working with Nate full-time in real estate, I've had a lot more time to spend with all 8 of our children, to give them the one-on-one time that they really need to thrive, academically, spiritually, socially. Nate and I have a really big focus on balancing your life. Yeah. Real estate success is amazing. It is absolutely worth it. But if your family life is in shambles, it's not going to mean much to you. If your financial budgeting life is in shambles, having more money through real estate isn't going to mean much to you because you're still going to not be able to balance a checkbook. What I learned in banking is there are people who live paycheck to paycheck on a $30,000 a year salary. And there are almost as many people who live paycheck to paycheck on a $3 million income per year.
Yeah.
Their monthly payments are now yachts and razors and really expensive toys, but they're still literally living paycheck to paycheck, waiting for that next income source to pay the bills that are accumulating. They have the same amount of stress on their plate. And it's because they haven't learned how to budget. They haven't learned how to save for the future. Wealthy people get income and invest it in assets that generate income.
And that's typically
mindset people get income and they buy toys.
And that's typically what we teach as people get started. That whole phase one is understanding finances with things like restructuring their finances before they even get into their first deal, right?
Right.
So what are some words of wisdom that you can give to our listeners that are just beginners? They haven't done any deals yet. They're looking at our investing ecosystems. They're looking at ways to plug in and play. What are some words of wisdom for your years of experience prior to our community and now combining forces with your new husband, Nate? Like, what are some things, some advice that you could genuinely share with our attendees today for getting started, right?
Yeah, I would say our partner, Edmund Fontana, has a phrase that I really love. Everything you really want is on the other side of fear. So overcome that fear and move to the things you really want. It's on the other side of both fear and sacrifice. You've got to be willing to sacrifice. If you think you can take all of the income you're making at your W-2 job and put it into toys and that your real estate portfolio is just going to grow itself magically, you're wrong. You have to make the sacrifices now to achieve your dream life later. And it's not that far down the road if you're willing to really plug in and work hard at it. But if you aren't willing to make sacrifices now, you're never going to be successful in real estate. Never. It's just the way it works.
So basically when they're facing fear of money or fear of loss or fear of investing in themselves, to really have a strategy behind that.
Yeah. The fear of all of that, helping yourself get the motivation necessary to overcome that fear. Nate and I are working on setting up a podcast where on one day a week, we just do Mindset Monday, where people understand, help them get into the mindset of real estate investing. Because being an entrepreneur in real estate is a very different mindset than a traditional W-2 job.
Yeah.
You have to change your mindset, change your thinking in order to be successful. That fear of the what if, the what if, the what if. Every rental property I've ever bought, guys, people have tried to talk me out of. Family, friends, neighbors, people I really trust. You're going to regret that. You're going to lose everything you've got. That's a terrible idea. Every property I've ever bought, including that fourplex that cash flows.
Yeah.
Everyone around me was like, oh, I saw that property and walked away from it. That's a disaster. You're going to regret buying that.
Wow.
I can't tell you the number of times I heard people say that. And I just say, thank you for your input. I really appreciate how much you care about us. Bought it anyway. Get past the fear, because what you need to learn is the strategies, the ideas of, okay, they're all afraid because they haven't gotten the education that they need to be successful at it. Absolutely. If you don't have the education to be successful at it, it is a really, really terrifying thing. But the more you learn, the less scary it becomes. The more experience you have, the less scary it becomes. So your hardest deal is going to be the first one you ever do, because you have to overcome that fear to get it done. After that, the confidence grows up. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this one's a bigger project, but I've done most of this before. I know how to make this work. I've already got my contractor in place. I've already got my team of people who are ready to jump into this project. And I have a much better idea of what the remodel cost is going to be because I've done so many of them now.
Yeah, and Becky, you mentioned mindset. Mindset's so important, and it's really one of the big reasons why we're bringing these ecosystems and these communities and people like you and me together on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, right? Because we're like you said, your partner Edmund, gave you some words of wisdom, and what we found is when we bring investors together, there's no telling what type of deals, what type of opportunities can transpire, and so I love what you said about mindset, and it's a big reason why our ecosystems are going to continue to grow and thrive. And it was just perfect because when I got started, I didn't have the environment, and so I needed an empowering environment, right? So I
Yeah,
love
it's scary. We have people who jump in, people on our team as well that jump in, and we call it the deal room, where twice a week we sit down, we discuss like via Zoom. Tell us about your projects. What are you doing? And what it does is it first of all, it motivates all of our new investors. We're like, okay, all these other people, they were new with me and they're finding ways to make this successful. I can do it, because it is hard to jump into real estate when everyone around you or a lot of people around you are telling you you're not going to be able to do this. You're going to fail. You're going to lose everything. You're going to leave your kids homeless. I mean, we all hear all the horror stories. You hear all the horror stories, guys. You've got to surround yourself with people who are successful at this, and who are motivated to be successful at it, so that you don't get overwhelmed by the naysayers telling you, you can't do this. You can't do this. When you surround yourself with a community of people who are in fact doing it, it takes a lot of that fear away.
Yeah.
It gives you ideas. You can see other people are like, oh, I saw Sarah bought this house and this is what she did to it. I'm looking at this other property in my neighborhood thinking I could probably do the same thing she just did and make money on it. You have to know now, when you see a property with an ugly driveway, everyone on this call is going to look at it and be like, ooh, I wonder if I could turn that into money like Becky did.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, you learn from each other's experiences and you learn from each other's mistakes. Sometimes on the deal room, people will say, so I learned the hard way, this. Last week, we had a person say, we put our earnest money down. We were 2 days away from closing, and I had someone go measure the property, and we realized it was 400 square feet less than what they had listed. So I lost my earnest money, but I backed out because the cost per square foot went up by so much that it was no longer profitable.
And this is exactly why it's important to have the people to talk with and to learn from. And, instead of making these major mistakes while we're in the deals, we could try to, because you're going to make mistakes, but we try to minimize those mistakes by educating ourselves and having each other's back.
Yeah, you're going to make mistakes. We all learn from each other's mistakes. In every industry you go into, you're going to make some mistakes. Yeah. But the vast majority of your mistakes, we try to learn them from each other's mistakes, so that if I only make one or two and Omar makes two or three and Nate makes one or two or whatever, we learn from each other's mistakes. The next time I go to buy a property, I'm to think in my head, oh, I should have the square footage double checked, because I remember someone else from our group ran into that problem. But had she have done it early on in the due diligence period, she could have got her security deposit back, or not the earnest money back. Because it was 2 days before closing and the earnest money had already gone hard, she lost the earnest money. So things like that you learn from each other, and we all grow and lift each other. It's very empowering to circle yourself with people who are successful in doing what you want to be doing, rather than everybody else who's never done it and therefore thinks it will never work. It's never going to work because I've never tried it. That's like surrounding yourself with people who are extremely obese and then saying, okay, I'm going to get in shape. Well, a lot of them are going to tell you, no, you can't do that. It never works.
Yeah.
You got to work with people who are actually trying to do what you want to do. You want to surround yourself with people who have the same goals as you, who can motivate you. And if getting in shape for you means you walk a fourth of a mile today, you walk a fourth of a mile. And if it means you run 14 miles, then you run 14 miles. Whatever your next step in your progress is, surround yourself with people who are at your level and above, because that's what motivates you. If it's people who are not doing what you're doing, it's not going to motivate you. And chances are, especially in real estate, they're going to try and talk you out of it, guys.
Now, what are some, and thank you, Becky. This has just been so amazing to hear your experience and how you've been bringing, you and your husband are now working together. You guys are helping other people. You've got your own podcast. You've got 8 kids, right? You guys are traveling the world. It's just unfreaking heard of and amazing. But I want to give we've got about 7 minutes before we got to jump off because we're starting our real estate investor ecosystem introductory presentation by yours truly. So I want to be able to answer some questions here because we may have some.
Oh, yeah. And let me give you the question. They asked, how much did it cost? Yeah. On each of the duplexes, I paid $59,325 to add 2 bedrooms to convert the garage into 2 bedrooms and that hallway.
Oh,
but that
Becky, I love it.
Doubled the rent. I should tell you, when I bought that property, each unit was renting at $1,200 a month. That's what the seller had them rented out when I bought it. Okay. I have them all rented at $2,500 a month plus by adding 2 more bedrooms.
There you go. So Scarlett's asking, what is your name of your podcast?
Oh, Real Estate to Freedom.
All right. Do you have
any not experience? Quite out yet. Like, we've been revising it. Nate does have one called Active Life Passive Income, and you can jump in and listen to those episodes so far. We're jumping in and doing it together now under Real Estate to Freedom.
I love it. So Nicole says, do you have any experience with new build homes and rentals? We are hoping to buy and hold new builds. Thanks.
I know a lot of people who have bought new build homes and rented them out. I personally have never done that model because I find I have a lot more cash flow capability by taking an ugly house and making it nice. However, if you're in the right market area, a new build is a lot less work. And if it only cash flows $400 a month, that's $400 a month. You'd have to put all the work into it that I did to get it to $3,000 a month or $2,000 or $3,000. You got to figure out what makes sense for your model. Not every model is perfect for every person. But no, I've actually never bought a new build house personally.
And every person has a different background, different starting place, a different vision for what they want to create. And the beauty of real estate investing is there are multiple strategies that you guys can use to make money, build wealth, and live your best lifestyle, right? And so, again, we're going to be talking more about that on the training coming up next.
Aiming for your dream life. So Nate and I are working on as part of Real Estate to Freedom, we're setting people up and helping them see the 5 steps to get to freedom, with the 5th step being living your dream life. Well, the 4th step is just replacing your income, meaning you've got enough recurring cash flow from your rental properties to be able to pay all of your bills. So you never have to worry again, okay, what if I lose my job? You've got enough money covering all of your bills. The 5th step is you've got enough money covering your bills and your dream life, whether that's traveling the world or philanthropic, donating X dollars per month to an organization you really passionately care about.
Love it. Here's another one. Now they're pouring in, guys. I'm a truck driver, over the road, no investments, nothing really to my name, live paycheck to paycheck. I'm essentially a newborn baby to the real estate world. Where do I start? Because you're right. I'm feeling so discouraged. This is scary. Where would you recommend he starts, Becky?
I would start with getting the education you need to do it right.
There you go.
I learned to do real estate, and quite frankly, guys, I'm just lucky I didn't lose everything. I didn't know what I was doing. I bought a house that just happened to make it through the recession really, really well. I could have bought a house where I lost everything I had just as easily, because I bought my first property in 2004. Okay. In 2004. So get the education you need to learn how to do it right, because that takes the fear away from it. And then when you're saving to buy your first property, you're much less likely to lose it all on a bad investment, because you've invested in yourself first. Learn what you need to learn to do it right. And then you can partner with people if you need to. I've had a lot of people we work with that got the education they need, and then they partnered with somebody who had the money but didn't have the time to do it. That works out perfectly to get started into real estate.
All right. And we've got time for one last one. Becky, this has been just amazing. Thank you. I'm going to rewatch it just for the heck of it. Right. I loved your numbers. I loved your knowledge. And you cross your T's and you dot your I's. Right. So what advice do you give about the year the house was built? And I'm sorry, guys, this is the last one because we got to jump off.
You got to know your market area. In some market areas, a house that's 40 years old could come with a lot more troubles than in a different area. in our particular area, I'm in Utah, a house that's 100 years old isn't necessarily bad if the timber is in good shape. We very rarely have termite issues around here because we have really strong winters and they don't typically live through the winter much.
Yeah.
But plumbing and electrical, you just need to know what to look for. If the age of the house is really old, make sure you have an inspector look at the plumbing and the electrical, and you should be fine.
All right, there you go. Well, guys, this has been great. Thank you for attending. We do these every single Saturday, highlighting investors in our ecosystem. We educate, we work together, and we help people get into the real estate investing space. If you'd like to take the time to learn more about our groups and how it works, join us on our next training. It's right after this. We're starting in 3 minutes, and it's all about how you can get started as a real estate investor. Becky, thank you again. Hopefully we get to see you. It was fun hanging out in Cancun for the little bit of time that we got to chat. And much love and respect, everybody. We'll see you next Saturday. Same place, same station. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thank you.